Hello everyone. The title of today's talk is Blessings of the Kind. And so Mr. Within will be diving into many compassionate worlds, but at the same time exploring what kindness means and how can you as a human experience utilize this idea. And so there are certain words I would like to share with you that I've written down. Kindness blooms from simplicity. For in simplicity, there is an existential, and this is in quotations, and my grammar teacher from, elementary school is probably screaming, but in simplicity, there is an existential allowance for everything. And so, kindness blooms from simplicity, for in simplicity, there is an existential allowance for everything. And as man begins to become aware of this, as man begins to try to see what kind means and who is he being kind to, he needs to first become aware of self. And what that means is this is where self-inquiry becomes an existential responsibility. What that means is if you are willing, if you are ready, you will in an instant march into the unknown with all that you know to then see what else you know. You are constantly recalibrating, realigning, and seeing the novelty within your moment of experience. And through kindness and compassion, the being, the individually conscious being, learns to dissolve into the world. What that means to some degree is that you as an individual conscious are looking around and you're seeing that when there has been wisdom and advice said by great men in the past, that we are here to serve others, you begin to see that as you align self, as you consider that this is me, as you have an identity, a personality, this is then creating a separation between what is other from you. But if you become aware as a moment of experience, you see the separation is how interpretation has constantly been a hamster in a wheel. For when you become observant of the world, the mystic's eyes speak a different language. They speak a silent and still language. A language that is not basing your externality on how temporal reality presents itself, because you are aware that in a world that's infinitely changing and in an expanding universe, there is no certainty of position. Because the artwork has not been finished. The celestial painter has not finished drawing. And so this is where you begin to see that, in a sense, the blessings of the kind are how you, through your deep self-contemplation in nature and self-inquiry, hear the trains pass you by, to see that the eyes looking out of those windows are as much of an existentially allowed vision as you. When you observe self and you see how self has been suggesting world, you will begin to see that you always had an ability to, as a very novel moment of awareness, and perhaps with the grace of the Zen Master's empty cup, you would perceive how you can align the speed of the train that suggested space and time were never late, for they relate. You see, guys, kindness is something where you look at your life and you need to ask yourself, what am I doing here? You just ask yourself, what am I doing here? And you could be wherever. You could be in a ditch or you could be in a palace. You could be wherever you are. And right now I am observing the stillness of the nature around me. And I'm seeing that as I look at how I have kept my meanings, I have also defined the experiences of others, and I have made people without realizing the truth that they have some experiences that they can never communicate because they have stepped through certain ways. Do you know? The intensity of human experience is the inspiration for the human ideology, which is the poet in language. You must see that direct experience you can't talk about it because if you're not directly experiencing it. What that means is there's no point of me giving you a Wikipedia link of skydiving. It's better if you go actually skydive. For then you will realize the power and the grace and the kindness in a limitless sky. We want to bring an existential kindness, and you will see that you are not seeking rewards here. There is, in a sense, no reward. You're not being compassionate to feel good or to help someone or to think that you've done something. No. There is no reward. You are selfless as how you are present, but you are found in a rewarding state of consciousness. What that means is that man who was extremely compassionate, you trust me, he was traveling into a new state of consciousness by letting go of that which he took ownership. Ownership is needed to some degree into handling externality and functioning in social systems and culture. But you need to see, on some level, there needs to be a transparency in how your ability is beyond just the individual body. The individual body seems, based on just observing it, an aspect of your moment. But your awareness, literally the sphere of awareness, what that means is if you're in a room, what you're completely aware of, or if you're outside, what you're aware of, you begin to see it is based on how the light of meaning is kept through an interpretation of how you're relating experiences. Memories are dancing here. And as memories dance, man begins to remember that there never needed to be a linearity. We are just a biological being who has developed and has created language based on self-reflective qualities of creating a sense of individual consciousness to work with. But that too is a creation of creation. Do you see? We as creation have a voice, but as we are the creation of creation, the greater creation has a greater voice. So you, in your acceptance of your reality, are beginning to not try to find an abundance for the physical body, but to cultivate and learn in how the moment is real. How the moment is here. And it's fascinating, guys. It's probably going to be fascinating for every person. Every person has their own route. What that means is every person, if you think about it, has taken certain steps. What that means is some people have gone through these experiences, and you see, we as humanity are not judging any. We are saying complete existential allowance. Exist as much as you want, in any way you want, But at the same time, we need to realize that there is a development. We are here working, and mankind, you as the human being, need to develop an existential responsibility that is, in a sense, guiding humanity. How would I say it? By what you feel is right through your being. And there's a sincerity there that is its own alignment. The minute you are sincere and honest with yourself, you have, in a sense, walked out of a very bad neighborhood in regards to what may be being attracted to you. Because when we go into a selfish modality, we chain things to what we think we need. The word want and need has created a lot of confusion, but you must understand there is nothing you can want here, and there is nothing that you really need, But as you engage in reality and intensify your focus and give meaning to let's say, bring order out of the chaos of this world into your vision, you create the world that is the profundity of mysterious creation. So acknowledge the fact that there's an unknown aspect to you and a known aspect to you, and the worlds of consciousness lie between. Many have thought to be the veil, but in actuality the veil is your lack of awareness of the self-reflective nature of how that person you hate, you really don't need to hate him, because you really don't know him. You're hating what they did to you. You are keeping their story alive for yourself in that manner, And when you do that, there's an unnatural aspect and you become insincere. We at times make others the greatest enemy when we are forgetting we are the one shouting. We must recognize the hero is not selfish, but he maintains the self. And the villain is not cruel, but is natural phenomena. What that means, I'm pretty sure if Superman was going to work every day, fighting crime or whatever, let's say Superman is fighting crime in Gotham City without Batman knowing, You'd begin to see if he was doing it constantly every day, at some point he'd be like, gosh, fighting crime is just like that leaf falling, Fighting crime is an existential transition. There is no villain. We create stories that project fantasies in our subtlety of how we're considering ourselves to be present, when in actuality, physicality is the most immediate experimental confirmation of where you are. So there needs to be an acknowledgement of the simultaneity of your being. And so if mankind is not ready to still consider subtler planes of abstraction, as Mr.Within suggests, you can begin to see simultaneity can be just this, that you know something and you also know that you don't know. That's it. That's a simultaneous experience of how consciousness is present, but at the same time has no idea where it is. Do you see? We are a beautiful design, but we seem to have questions that question even our design. There is an absolute beauty here in how experience moves beyond itself. The experience of reality moves beyond itself. And such a kindness comes from a very collective glow. It comes from an existential knowledge that is collective. That the tree was not talking. It's not that the tree talks to you. It's that you poetically give it a voice to see how your moment is present and how the nature of your being is right there with the nature of all life. And so the inspiration of your moment is the voice of the tree. And so it's a beautiful experience to recognize that the natural world is always kind to you, for it does not judge you. Man judges himself because he has created his sense of self based on forms of imagery. How interesting it is. When I heard the concept of idol worship, how in certain religious texts they suggested the prophet came and brought enlightenment upon people who were just worshiping their own idols and into unifying it into one, and you began to see, you kind of see, like, it's very interesting. How would I say it? It's we can see that idol worship is a sense of illusion. But at the same time, instead of idols, man is confronting imagery. And so, if an idol was an aspect of imagery, the whole moment, do you see, is a revelation beyond the imagery. What that means is, there is also idea worship. And idea worship has led to many warships, has led to many idea worships. And we must choose to transcend. I mean, sometimes you look at the problems of humanity in the past and you're like, gosh, that was a messy situation, And you sometimes see you can't really fix it. Sometimes some problems are still being carried on by the past, and so you see sometimes the solution is to allow yourself to step into new eyes, to allow yourself to step into new vision, into a new sense of clarity, into a new sense of alignment, into a new sense of orientation of what you must do. For kindness is the act of a being who's dissolving his reality into such a blissful truth that he is the direct experience. There is no words and there is no duality. That is not found in an empty circle. I would like to share a certain, we can say, meditational technique by Mr.Within. And it's very interesting, guys. It's what I've come up here with is, I want to say, it's called a kindness check. And I want you to do a kindness check. And what that really means is, as you are present in 7 steps and 7 breaths, inhale and visualize a world of absolute kindness. You can go into nature and do this. You can go into anywhere. You could be in any place in the world. You just need to sit still and within the silence of being, acknowledge reality. So, we're going to inhale, and as we inhale very deeply, we envision the absolute experience. So in our visualization ability, we are going to the absolute peak of how we can envision the kindest world possible. And as we exhale, we immediately, there doesn't even have to be an image for this, transcend. And so you're completely moving and taking a leap into seeing what exactly, what is the next vision. So it's, in a sense, with our breathing every exhale, we're transcending every reality by just taking it to the peak of what we can consider. And this is different for every person, but it is truly a blessing if we can present it within ourselves. Because in a sense, as you reach the last inhale, in an instant, you will dissolve into absolute experience in the sense that you are seeing where the peak of the kindest world can take you. And then you exhale into absolute being and pure causality within your moment of experience. And so, maybe begin this kindness check. We shall begin. We shall begin now. With every inhale, visualize the most absolute kindness within this world that you're able to. And with an exhale, we transcend it like the wind. Like lights remembering greater lights. And so let's begin. some mantras would like to be shared now. As you bask within your existential comfort, experience the beauty of causality and the beauty of life. For even sounds can shake off meaning. That never meant anything. As we dissolve into sound, our awareness is all that it is aware of. For the pilot's calling. Lead A kind man walks within the simplicity that is the blessed world. The blessings of the kind is the clarity found within your sincerity and honesty, that is the transcendence out of your ideology into the direct experience of the absolute being that you are. For the blessings of the kind is not just the journey through the world of worlds, but it is the smile that was beyond conception. And of course, guys, be very playful with life. For the blessings of the kind is, it simplifies your life a bit. It doesn't make it the rock star life you want externally, but it will eventually take the intensity of your experience to a degree where you will become so fascinated with your world that you will go experience flows of knowledge and knowing. You will be inspired by your life, and so you will, even after your death, continue to be inspired by the life that you have lived. For within self-inquiry there was the truth, that beauty was the kindness and the compassion that bloomed. Much blessings and namaste.